How would you like to have a proven step-by-step process to develop your brand, build trust with customers and prospective clients, and be looked upon as an expert in your industry? Sounds pretty good, right? Well, stay tuned. We are going to dig into this with our special guest today, and we're going to talk about how to attract and keep customers for life. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe marketing shouldn't be difficult. All you need is the right plan. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I am super excited to have with me Terry Begg from Begg Painting. Terry, welcome, and thanks so much for being here.
Oh, it's great being here, Tim. I'm excited and looking forward to having a talk with you.
Yes, me too. You have a very interesting background. We're going to dig into that here in a minute. But before we do, I want to just ask you some rapid fire questions to help us get to know you a little bit. You ready to jump in with both feet here?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
Okay. When you are not working, how do you like to spend your time?
Usually it's with my family. My daughter lives just a mile from us. We become empty nesters, and my son lives in Arizona, but I'm going out to see him next week. So
Awesome.
being with family.
What's your hidden talent?
Hidden talent. That's that's a tough one. I think, and this always comes from my wife. She says you can connect with anybody, whether it be someone working on your paint crew that didn't even attend high school, or a PhD. So it seems like you're able to make friends. I'm able to connect with people kind of naturally. I don't know. That's what she tells me.
That's a great talent to have. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best advice I was ever given is don't give up on your dreams. That it's not, life's not telling you you can't have what you want. Maybe it's just saying you're not quite there yet. So that's been the big one for me, because we sometimes we greatly overestimate what we could do in a year, but we greatly underestimate what we could do in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So I look at a lot of things as more like a marathon than a sprint.
What's one thing about you that surprises people?
That I wrote a book, the people from back home, because I barely got through high school. I passed English with D's, and and the fact that they look at me and they go, "You're an author now, and you wrote a course." He goes, "How did you do those things?" So that's the big one, I think, coming from where I came from, doing things that's, I guess, smart people do.
Yeah. Some of the most successful people I know sucked at school. Like, the formal education process is great for some people, not so great for others. But whether you excelled there or not is certainly not a huge determining factor, in my opinion, of where you're going to go in life and how much success you're going to experience.
Yeah.
Which leads me into the next question. What does success mean to you?
To me, success is not necessarily about having a bulging bank account or a second home somewhere. It's knowing you could do what you want to do. It's freedom, I think. Knowing I could get up today and go paint if I wanted to. I could just be on podcasts all day, but I have the freedom to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I think that's why a lot of people become self-employed, just for that one thing right there. And I have it. It took me a while, but I'm there now.
That's a phenomenal place to be. So congratulations on that one.
Yeah.
Where is your happy place?
Oh gosh. Again, I'm gonna say when our whole family's together, because like I said, we split up a little bit a few years ago. My son decided to move to Arizona, but we still all get together at least once a year. So the best place for me to be is knowing when I'm with my family and everybody's healthy. Let's say.
What qualities do you value in the people you spend time with?
Trust is huge. I think of my employees. I spent next to my wife and my kids. It's probably my employees that I'm around, and of course, there's just an unspoken trust with family. But with my crew, they know that trust is everything. To stand behind what they do. So really, just being legitimate and transparent. I think those are the big ones. Transparency, I would say, is one of the top ones, which is one of the things that leads to trust. Probably one of the trust biggest qualities is transparency, I think.
Yeah.
So it all focuses right around there.
Now, one of the things I mentioned in the beginning here was that you have an interesting background. So you have a painting company that you've owned for years. How many years have you owned?
This is my 43rd year.
Okay.
I
43rd year in your painting business. So, dang, Terry, you are doing something right. Tell us a little bit more just about your background, what what you're doing now. A lot of people might be going, well, gosh, Terry's a painter. Why are you interviewing him, Tim? You're doing a lot more than that now. So tell us a little bit more about your background and what you're doing in addition to your painting business at this point.
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, I wasn't a bookworm, let's say,
Yeah.
okay, kind of a person. I knew when I went to college, I did try it. It was the worst 4 weeks of my life. But, uh, but once I got it, I knew the only way I wanted to have above average income, and I knew the only other way I was gonna do it if I can't get a degree was I needed to own a business. And when I started, I was an absolute train wreck. I wanted to be in business. I was very independent, couldn't work for anybody, and I wouldn't let anybody show me anything. I had to figure it all out on my own. And it took me about 10 years to get up to speed to where things finally made more sense, and needed that motivation of my wife saying just 3 little words to me that changed my life forever. And those were, Terry, I'm pregnant. And that's a true story. I mean, it's crazy because nothing changed in my life for those first 8 years that we were married. But once she said that to me, it was like a switch had flipped in my brain. All of a sudden, that lifestyle that I was providing for her was no longer going to be good enough. And I found ways to just get out of my comfort zone, start connecting with my customers. And I started reading books. The books behind, I read hundreds of books on the topic of entrepreneurship and how to connect with customers, because I knew that was the key. Those first 8 years, I looked at my customers as almost like they were the enemy. Either they hired me and I won, or they didn't hire me and they won. But it wasn't until I learned that they were really the pathway to my success did things turn around for me, when I started treating them like not just friends, but good friends, and going out of my way for them, and collecting testimonials and getting feedback and things about what they like and what they didn't like. Did things start to turn around for me? And I started getting so successful in my business. I mean, from the time my wife told me she was pregnant until we had our son, just 8 months later, I had already doubled my income. And over that next year, I doubled it again. And I knew I was onto something big, and I created a process or a system for painting homes real quick. I had a crew where we were turning houses over in one day, knocking out sometimes 2 houses a day. And with that volume, it just seemed to um, m- go go faster and faster, pick up more speed. It had its own momentum almost. And then people started saying, other painters, hey, how are you doing that? Why don't you, show us what you're doing? And that's kind of where the idea of the book came from, helping other people to be where I am, and not just painters, but anyone starting a business. It's pretty much the same thing.
And what's the
I
what's
think
the name of your book, the title of your book?
my book is titled Attract and Keep Customers for Life.
Okay.
And what it's about, the subtitle probably explains it better. And what that is 4 abilities to build trust, communicate your value, and charge what you're worth. And that's what changed for me. I learned how to communicate my value to my customers. And when they call me, they know I'm not going to be the cheapest. And they know going in, but they still call me. They don't usually, they never question my price, and they use me over and over. They refer me to their friends. And because of that, I haven't advertised since 2012. You being a marketer probably think that's crazy, but I like being able to keep saying that. I still turn away more jobs than I take every year, even though I don't advertise anymore.
I want to dig into this a little bit. The first 8 years of your business, what was that like? I mean, it sounds like
Horrible.
you were doing something right because you were able to stay in business, but
Mm.
was your income inconsistent? Were you not making a lot of money? What did that look like?
That was exactly it. I wasn't making a lot of money. The only jobs I was getting was the ones that the other painters didn't want, or either that or I was the lowest bidder. And you start playing that bidding war like that, it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's where I was. I stayed in that place. I can remember even vacuuming the carpet for a guy once just to make an extra $20. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong. But like I said, I never really just tried to learn in the beginning. I just went through the motions. I reacted to life instead of creating the life that I wanted.
Yeah.
And because it was such a big difference from where I was to where I am now, really opposite extremes, I felt like this book has a lot of value because I share not just the successes, but the mistakes that I made too. And what it came down to is learning how to sell the jobs. But I hated selling more than anything, and that's the reason for the what I call the 4 abilities. what they were like soft selling skills that didn't feel like you were selling, and the customer didn't feel like they were being sold,
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
got it. That
Mhm.
really speaks a lot to how bad you wanted this, your tenacity and your persistence, because 8 years in, most people would have given up years before that. So kudos to you for that, and I admire you for sticking with it till you got to that place where you started to gain traction and see success. Which leads me into the kind of the first question I want to ask you. What you've been doing this for 40 plus years.
Mhm.
What's the single biggest reason for your success?
I may have already touched on it a little bit. I think it's realizing that your customers are the difference. They're the pathway to success with, I mean, they don't need us, we need them. I own a service business, so and I'm going into people's homes. So trust is huge. And I would have to say, because my customers are the single biggest reason, the reason that they hire me, if you want to take that a little bit deeper, is because they trust me more than anyone else. I have 10 or 12 different tips in my book on how to build trust in a short amount of time. And it's a lot of little things because it's not right to judge, but we're still being judged all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's those little things that matter. Like, are you there when you said you're going to be there? Did you do the things that you said you were going to do? It's just simple little things, but there's so many of them I have listed in this book. When you pull it all together, it's very powerful. Each one by itself, not so much, but its abilities to make yourself more likable, and credibility is important to it. And then getting into the most important one, which is the trustability.
I think so many of us overlook the simple things.
Mhm.
It's it To be extraordinary, we don't have to do extraordinary things. We just need to do the simple things extraordinarily well, right?
Yep.
I think it was Jim Rohn that said something to that effect. And it's true, especially in the field that you are in.
Mhm.
Um, Look, there's a lot of contractors that just, I mean, what's the stereotype of contractors? Like, they don't call, they don't show up
Mhm.
on time.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it presents a huge opportunity for people like you that see,
Mhm.
look, gosh, if I call people back and show up on time and do what I say I'm going to do, I'm differentiating myself.
Yep, it really is, and it makes a huge difference. I hear it every day, and almost every customer that I call back, they usually come through my office here on the answering machine. I want to say maybe 5 out of 10 times, at least maybe more. They say I'm the only one to call them back, and that just blows me away because those people are paying for marketing. I'm fortunate enough I don't have to advertise anymore, but people are paying for advertising, paying for marketing, and then not following up and even returning phone calls. That just seems crazy to me.
It seems crazy to me, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
You touched on the four abilities here, the four abilities that you write about in your book.
Mhm.
How did you come up with these four abilities? Why four, not three or five or any
Uh,
number?
Again, I had several people say, "How do you do what you do? I mean, could you break it down and turn it into a book?" And when I started doing that, I started thinking about it, and really, the what gave me the momentum to develop these abilities was, as I mentioned earlier, I hated selling. I had a friend in our family who was a used car salesman, and I just did not like that stereotype. I didn't want to sell, and I was horrible at it. But then I realized if I can find ways to make myself likable to my customer right off, that would be the first step. Then if I could find a way to make myself believable, build credibility with them, and because going from like to trust was just too big of a leap. So in between there, I started working on building believability, and again, that's doing those little things right, a lot of little things, and then I thought, well, trust is really the golden ticket. If you could get to trust, and so I started creating um, a little things that you can do and say that'll build more trust with your customers in a short amount of time. And then the final one was wow ability, which is more about getting referrals. I call it referrals on steroids, when you can wow your customer, which is really just following through with everything you said you were going to do and then a little bit more. Things like I give a lot of examples in my book of ways to wow your customers, like overpromise and overdeliver. Still, just by doing more, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to do a little bit more, but it goes a long ways in the customer's mind.
So I want to I want to reiterate these four abilities again: being likable,
Mhm.
being believable, being trustworthy, and then having what you call this wow ability.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, can we dig deeper into each one of these a little bit? Can you give us some examples or some tips that are going to hammer each one of these four home for people?
Let's tips. Okay. Like right off, the customer doesn't know me. They call me. The way I build likability is, say I make an appointment to be there tomorrow at 4:30. Well, at about 4:15, I'll call, and we have cell phones. It's so easy. I'll call and say, "Hey, I'm on my way." They already love. When I first started doing that, honestly, I did it for me more than for them because I wanted them to be there and be ready. Because I was so busy, I didn't have time to wait for them to go find their shoes and then find their husband and get outside so we could look at the job. So I started calling, and I found customers absolutely loved that I would call ahead. But I don't, even though I was on time, I still would call ahead and let them know that I'm on my way. Again, just a little thing. An example of believability would be something like, oh, when I was there, I would show them, I would give them a list of testimonials from other customers that are just like them, and that made me much more believable in the eyes. And sometimes they would even know the people. I've painted so many houses now in my area. I can usually point out houses to them if we're in a neighborhood. Like an allotment type, and I could always show them work that I've done. That makes me believable. They could go to my websites another way because it's covered with testimonials. I'm really big on those because other people's words are so powerful,
Yeah.
hundreds of times more powerful than anything that we could say about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
What someone else says. And then an example of trust would be, um, coming in at a price that I where I said I would be, before I even got there. I give them an idea. I try to give them a little bit of an idea. If I have an idea of the area, the type of home that they have, I'll ask them a couple of questions over the phone, and that builds trust that I don't get there and then throw out a number that's way, much higher than what I said at first. And these are just quick ones. I just didn't
Yeah.
want to overlap some of them. An idea of wowability. I mentioned earlier, overpromise and overdeliver. We always try to, when we're painting someone's home, I always try to do something a little bit extra. If it's outside, maybe the mailbox post or something simple that needs painted to match in that they don't ever think to say anything about, or something they clearly missed that's easy for you to do while you're there. Maybe there's the gutters need cleaned out if they're elderly. Just little things like that make it,
Yeah.
and that really does wow the customer. Another thing I do is what I call risk reversal. Is I tell them, they go, "What do you mean by that?" And I say, You take no risk by hiring me because I'm not going to turn a bill in." This must sound crazy to you, but I tell them, "I'm not going to turn a bill in until you tell me you're happy." And they just look at me and they go, "Really?" They don't believe I'm going to do that, but they're ready to write a check before we're even done usually because we do more than we say we're going to do. And we figure it into the job, enough to cover ourselves so we can do that. But that's just a couple of examples of what I mean call wow ability.
So do
And,
you, when you say that to people, are you collecting no deposit up front?
yeah, I know that sounds crazy. No, I don't, and I don't even. A lot of them sign. There's a place they could sign my contract, my
Yeah.
proposal, but I don't ask them to. And I work on a handshake. I've painted over 5,000 homes, and only one person has ever burnt me on that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if that's all that it's ever going to burn me, I think I can afford to keep doing it.
This is awesome, because most people, like you said, hear that and they go, "Oh my gosh, that this is crazy."
Hmm.
But you have been doing this long enough. I can't even begin to guess how many projects you have picked up because you have that policy.
Hmm.
Um, Most people would be afraid to offer a policy like that, but you have enough data where you know the risk versus the reward is so small
Hmm.
that differentiates you from every single one of your competitors that is out there. Um, that is phenomenal. It actually reminds me of an example. I interviewed, this was Jose Palomino, from Value Prop. I interviewed him a month or two ago. And I don't think I can't remember whether we talked about this on the interview or we talked about it afterwards, but This is a clear example of what we call an element of value. It is a value that you can put out there that is going to help differentiate you from your competitors. And he talked about a customer of his, and I can't remember the exact details, but they sold like propane or heating fuel, heating oil, that type of thing. And one of the things that he had worked with them on was they created a policy where, like, if the customer ran out of fuel, they would go out there and fill it back up for free. It was something like that,
Wow.
where most of their competitors would be like, oh my God, how can you possibly do that? But they had a process in place that would notify them when things were getting low. And it was like, well, how often do people run out? And they're like, well, next to never. So why don't you make that promise? And
Yep.
that's exactly what you're doing here is, hey, look, you're going to be happy.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're not going to get a bill.
Yep.
Um,
I mean,
that is awesome.
what I even say to my customers, they look at me and they go, "Really?" And I say, how is the line? I have it down. I've said it so many times now. I say, because what I found is people aren't looking to beat you out of a paint job. They just want you to do what you promise.
Yeah.
And when I say that to them, they go, "Yeah, that makes sense. That is." And that's exactly what it is. They're not trying to bust you out, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Most people, I like to think most people have good intentions. The
Mhm.
vast majority of people out there would never feel good about having you paint their house and then saying, hey, thanks, Terry. I'm just going to go screw you. I'm not going
Mhm.
to pay you.
I'm not happy.
Like, come on.
Mhm.
Um, and frankly, you have other recourse that you can take if that happens.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess.
we don't need to go down that path.
Mhm.
But so I want to dig into this a little bit more too. So we've got
Sure.
these four abilities. It seems to me like one, these abilities kind of go in line,
Mhm.
right? You have to first be likable, then you can be believable, then you can be trustworthy, and then you can
Correct.
build this
Wow.
wow ability.
Mhm.
But it also seems like when you put this down and actually thought this process out, it does give you a framework that you can focus on. So when you are working with or in communication with a potential client, it's top of mind the things that you can and should be doing throughout this process
Mhm.
to lead them through these four abilities. Am,
Yep.
am I communicating that
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's really easy, and like I said, I hated the feeling that I was selling a customer, but what I found when I did it like this, if I just tried to make myself likable and believable, it didn't feel like I was selling, it didn't feel manipulative, and,
Yeah.
that's what really bothered me the most, and the customers were really comfortable with me that way too because I didn't push them. Even in the beginning when I needed the job, I didn't, but now, everything just flows so nice and easy, I don't ever have to, worry about how many customers I'm meeting every week because we get 30, 40 houses booked ahead in the summertime, here in Ohio.
Yeah. And
It's just it's
it's done.
crazy, and I had to turn jobs away. I mean, we try now. It's gotten to the point where we just do. I don't want to really start another crew. I could, but it's gotten to the point where we just do the very easiest jobs that are easiest for us, they pay the best, and in spraying aluminum sided homes and cedar sided homes, things that can be sprayed because we mask off everything and we get nice straight lines. The owners just love our system, and a lot of times we're in and out in a day.
You so you only do very specific types of painting
It
jobs.
it wasn't always that way, but as the demand kept picking up and picking up, I went to 2 crews and almost started a 3rd crew, but I'll tell you, I just wasn't comfortable with it anymore. I kinda lost touch with my customers a little bit, and I thought, "No, I'd rather just back off and just do the ones that I wanna do."
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and it sounds like those are the jobs that you know you do great work.
Yep,
Your system is really dialed in for that. You know the finished product is going to get
and
the end result that they're looking for.
and my crew, they do the same thing every day. They're so good at it. I don't have
Yeah.
to even tell them what to do every day. They know the process, they know the system, and we just work our way around the house. It's just easy in and out.
So I want to call this out because I think it's easy for people to just overlook what you're touching on here. You have a very clear understanding of who your ideal clients are.
Yes.
If you talk to people and they do not fall into that realm, you refer them somewhere else?
I try to I hate to say no to people, and I just
Yeah.
did that today. I just referred a lady had a wooden house. I'd painted it for her about 10 years ago. She just turned 100 today. This
Oh,
lady I
wow.
just was talking to, awesome lady too, and I felt so bad telling her that I just can't do it anymore. It's just it's too involved, and we don't do those. But I gave her the name of another guy, and he's already talked to her. So
Yeah.
I hate to tell people no without at least give them an option.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's just, you know what you're good at and what you're
Hmm.
not.
Yep.
And that makes your business far more efficient than most. You and more profitable.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that we dig into when we talk about target market. You know, every homeowner is not an ideal client for you. You know very specifically the types of homes, you know, where they are, what they're made out of.
Hmm.
If they don't fall into that category, you already know that you're going to refer them out because it's just not a good fit for you.
Yep.
And you have a very successful business, even though you say no to very specific types of jobs.
Yeah, I do. And again, I hate to tell them no without at least giving them an option or two, something else that they can do. And, there are guys out there saying, nope, don't do that. And I can't be like that to people. You know,
Well, if you really wanted to, you could be making referral fees off of those referrals.
right.
Some people love to do that. Some people just feel good knowing that they're getting somebody to somebody else that can take care of them. But um, yeah, you are not losing business by focusing. You are actually doing more business because of that. And I'm calling this out because that is the biggest roadblock most people have when you talk about honing in on specific types of ideal clients.
Hmm.
They go, gosh, I'm going to lose business. You have experienced this year in, year out. That is not the case. Your
Yeah.
business, if you wanted to continue to grow and do more volume, you could,
Yeah.
but you've made the choice. I don't want to add in another crew. I don't
Yeah.
want that headache. Um, and that's the beauty of owning your own business. You're empowered to make that decision.
Right. Yep. I still love what I do, even though I'm going to be 63 here in a month. I've still got a few more years in me, and I still love doing the same thing I did when I was in my 20s. And
That's awesome.
mm,
40 plus years you've been doing this. If you could go back when you started your business and change one thing, what would that one thing be?
Probably, I look at those first 8 years, how bad we suffered, and what bothered me more than me was my wife. I pulled her along there with me, and that I really had a hard time with that. So that would be the thing I would fix. I probably should have asked for help. Back then, I was so independent, I could figure it all out on my own. I mean, I went into the painting business, and I really didn't even know how to paint. I had no skills, and I wish I would have maybe apprenticed with a painter, at least for a couple of years, talk to more people. I try to figure everything out on my own. I would have asked for help. I would have paid for some kind of training at least, or taken a job with somebody and just learned the skills to begin with,
Yeah.
and before even getting on to the business skills part. So it's been a long, slow process there for me, but I think I ended up in a good place because of it. But that would be the biggest thing I would do over is I would make sure I got the education, not necessarily in school for what I was doing, but just to learn the skill of painting, but most even more so the skill of running a business.
I talk about that. I talk about this very thing often in some of the interviews that I do, where man, I struggle with that too. I still struggle with it from time to time, asking for help. You know,
Mhm,
I think it is so easy for us to feel like, gosh, if we're asking for help, we're showing weakness. You know, there's vulnerability there, but it really shows strength and confidence that you can go to somebody and say, hey, I'm sucking at this, or I don't know how to do this. I need some help. Can you help me? And I
yep,
think there are so many people out there that want to help.
mhm.
They just need to be asked by somebody.
Oh yeah, there's an organization now, PCA, Professional Painting Contractors, and everybody in there is so helpful, and they're there to ask. I know when I started, there was no internet, but now they're
Yeah.
chat. That's what I was saying. I used to call my customers, even though we had no cell phones. I used to call from home or stop at a payphone.
Yeah.
So I say it shouldn't be that hard for people to make a quick call to the customer because we have cell phones now, and be on time because we have GPS. So there's
Yes.
those excuses don't wash anymore. But yeah, that's it's just things are a lot different now, but I think they're easier than the way they used to be a little bit.
There's no doubt about it. The tools, the communication tools, the access to
Mhm.
information that we have now compared
Yep.
to what it was when you first started is night and day.
Mhm.
We just need to be open and willing to look into these things and figure out how we can use them to benefit us and our clients.
Yeah, it just comes down to having a caring heart for your customers. I think
Yeah.
if you, because we all know what good customer service is because we all are customers, right? We know what we like.
Yeah.
And to be able to look at that the other way around and providing what they like is not that hard of a thing to do if you just kind of look at it from their perspective a little bit.
One of the things that you said that is still sticking with me was your example with Wowability. You know, painting the mailbox post, even though that wasn't part of the job.
Mhm.
Little things like that. Like when you were saying that, I was just thinking, I was like, gosh, yeah, if that happened to me, I'd be like, dude, thanks. That was so nice. They didn't have to do that,
It-
but they did it anyways.
And it goes a long ways. That's what they remember.
Yeah.
They don't remember the great job that they knew they were gonna get anyways, they remember that little bit extra.
Yeah.
Inside, we clean the dust off the top of them ceiling fans that are always dirty and offer to change out light bulbs for the customer. We don't buy them, but if they have them there, we put them in. Again,
Yeah.
just little things, and that's the stuff that they remember,
Yeah.
I found.
It's because they didn't expect it.
Right, yeah,
They
exactly.
expected you to do a good job painting.
Yeah.
Uh, but when you go above and beyond and they are aware of that, that sticks with people.
Yeah, and clean it up at the end. So few people do that. We try to get the I tell the guys when we pull in, when I have a new person, I say, look at their yard right now. This is how it has to look when we leave. And it usually looks so we've had people tell us their yard looked better after we left. And so again, it's just a little thing. It doesn't take that much more time, but it makes a huge difference in the mind of the customer.
I love it.
It's-
Terry, you've dropped some serious value today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share your experience and what you've learned along the way. Any last minute thoughts, words of wisdom you want to leave us with?
Words of wisdom. I'm going to come back to that. The one thing that I learned is it is success is a process. You know, don't think of it. You know, if you aren't having the success you expect in a few months, maybe it was never meant to be that quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
most overnight successes took years of hard work and research and learning. Think of success in anything you try to do is more of like a marathon than a sprint. You know, life's not saying no, you can't have this. It's really just saying you're just not there yet. Keep pushing.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. You know, keep going. Don't get discouraged. And if you do, bounce back because you're getting there, and it'll work as long as you keep pushing towards the what it is that you really want. Okay.
People want to dig more into your book, to attract and keep customers for life, learn more about what you're offering outside of what you're doing with your painting business. Where is the best place for them to go, Terry?
If you look in the show notes, my name, terrybegg.com. That's it
Okay.
from there. I have a free download of, I think, 7 ways to attract more business and get customers that don't cost a dime. A lot of those things we talked about today, they don't cost anything. You know,
Yeah.
that's all free stuff the way I look at it. So why not do it?
So I'm gonna spell this out. Terry Begg. So it's TerryBegue, terrybegg.com. If you
Yeah.
guys like what we've talked about today, Terry obviously knows what the hell he's doing. It has worked for him in his painting business. And now he is trying to share that with everybody else so that we can all benefit from it. Head on over to terrybegg.com, check out his book, check out some of the free resources he has there. Terry, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I have learned a bunch. You've put some things at the top of my mind that I'm going to take advantage of. So thank you for that. And for those of you that are listening, watching, thank you so much for doing so. I really appreciate it. If you are struggling with your marketing, you're not quite sure what that next right step is for you to get from where you are to where you want to be, head on over to our website at rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. Click on the get a free consultation button. I guarantee you will get a ton of value from that call and walk away having some clarity on where you should be focusing right now to get to where you want to go. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take care.